Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat. Today I have a different scenery behind me. I am going to be doing my first unhaul ever. I have never done an unhaul in my life. I've always kept every book I've read, even those that I didn't really like as much. But I decided I need to get rid of some books only because I'm running out of shelf space, and so I need to make space for more books that I'm gonna have this year. I've compiled some books that I didn't like or I don't want for whatever reason, and I feel that they may be better in someone else's hands or somebody else might find interest in reading them. I am selling these books for a low price on Pango books, so if you'd like to check any of these books out, the link will be down below. I want to show off some of the jewelry that I'm wearing that is from my Etsy store. So I have this bracelet, and then these two bracelets, and then this ring, and this ring, and this necklace, and this earring. I'll start off with The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. I remember being very hopeful for this book because of the South Asian representation and the fact that it is set in India, and I thought I would enjoy it, but I really didn't. I remember it being pretty boring, and the sister relationship that took place, it was kind of toxic, and there's a cheating trope in here that I did not like at all. It's also a historical fiction, and I'm not a huge fan of historical books, so it just wasn't my cup of tea. Hopefully it can serve its purpose for someone else. And then I have Becoming by Michelle Obama. This isn't an uninteresting book, but I am not a fan of autobiographies. I quickly realized this while reading this. Although Michelle Obama is a very interesting person, I have no interest in reading about her whole life, and that goes for a lot of people. I'm not the biggest fan of autobiographies. I actually DNF'd this book, which is shocking because I don't DNF books. This is going to be a little bit shocking, maybe, but I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I thought I liked this book, and I thought I enjoyed it, and I kind of convinced myself that I did because it was very popular and a lot of people really liked this book. However, the more I reflect back on my reading experience, the more I realized that I don't actually like this book, and it was very dry, and the main male character, he was pathetic. I didn't vibe with him at all, and it was just a bit of a boring book. Beautiful imagery, beautiful descriptions, just not the book for me. And then I have Cruel Beauty. This is by Rosamund Hodge. Cruel Beauty is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I read this again way back then. I think I was in college or something. It was okay. I remember it being an okay read. There wasn't anything particularly exciting going on. Pretty basic plot line, basic characters. So nothing really stood out to me about this book. There's a sequel, but I honestly have no interest in picking it up. I have The Witch Haven. This is by Sasha Payton Smith. I picked this book up on a random Barnes & Noble trip, and it has a very interesting premise. It is about witches, which is one of my favorite things to read in a book. And it has this beautiful cover. To take the dust jacket off. It's very, very gorgeous. I gave it a 2-star rating. The main female character, she is portrayed to be a very powerful witch, but there weren't any scenes that really showed how powerful she was. That really made it difficult to believe that she is a powerful witch, plus very dry, very boring writing. Lost myself while reading this, and overall just did not have the best time. And then I have On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I did not hate this book. I actually enjoyed this book. I read The Hate You Give before reading this, and I loved The Hate You Give. It's probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. On the Come Up, I feel like wasn't as great as The Hate You Give in my personal opinion. Not that this had that many issues, but for me, Hate You Give was so much more deep, and there's a lot more depth and just a lot of messages and lessons to take away from it. I definitely want to get this book out in the world for somebody else to give it a try, so I would love for somebody else to read this book too. Next we have Mr. and Mrs. Witch. This is by Gwenda Bond. This had a very interesting premise as well. We have a witch and we have a witch hunter, and that's a trope I do enjoy reading. However, this book was again another mid-book, very basic plot going on, plot structure, basic characters, nothing too interesting. The romance didn't feel that intriguing either. Definitely not intriguing enough for me to enjoy it. And I have Feels Like Falling. This is by Christy Whitson Harvey. I've already talked about this book in previous videos, how much I did not like the gay representation. I didn't like these basic ass characters. I did not like this plot line. I could not connect with these characters or their struggles, and it just was not a book for me. I have Trim of the Key by Ruth Ware. Now this is my first and only Ruth Ware book so far. I would love to give her another try because I did not like this book so so predictable, so boring, not creepy at all, and the ending was dumb. I'm sure there's a lot of Ruth Ware fans out there that would love to get their hands on this book. If you would like this book, you can find it on my Pango account, but I definitely was not a fan. Then I have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I made a whole book review on this some years back of how much I did not like this book. I didn't like this book because of the characters. Like, our main character, Lucy, she had no personality. Her only personality was to obsess over Josh, and Josh was depicted as this perfect character, like he had no flaws. Honestly, the reason they were enemies in the beginning made no sense. They were like office rivals or whatever that hated each other and played games on each other, pranks. It was just dumb and childish, and yeah, couldn't be bothered with this book. And I have Looking for Alaska by John Green. This book I picked up back when John Green was all the rage. This book specifically was all the rage. I think this is when the movie came out or something. I read it and did not like it. It was so freaking boring. I read this years ago, and I just remember having the hardest time getting through, and there were a lot of things that did not tie up together at the end, like what happened to Alaska, why did she die? Did she die? I don't even remember if she died or not, but there was some mystery around her, and her being this manic pixie dream girl character. I'm just tired of reading about those characters, and I don't really care, and did not care about this book. And then I have some books that, now that I look back on it, maybe I shouldn't have read as a child. For context, when I was young, I read anything and everything I could get my hands on. There wasn't a day where I did not have a book in my hand, and if I didn't have something, I'd find something in like the grocery store. So a lot of these books were actually picked up from the grocery store, and as we know, usually those books are paranormal romance or adult romance books. So, Into the Dark by Gina Showalter, Pandora's Daughter by Iris Johansson, The Mephisto Club by Tess Gerritsen, Come the Night by Susan Crinard. These books were very adult, and I was very not adult. I was very much a kid, and I got to some of these spicy scenes. I was shooketh because I've never read them before. So this was my introduction for sure. I have no hopes in continuing any of these series. I think I'm done with these forever. So I thought I could beat the daylight, but the sun started setting and it's getting darker now. So I have my lights on if you notice a change in the lighting here. But the next book I have is The Lightest Object in the Universe by Kimi Aiseal. If you're looking for a book where there is no plot movement, no character movement, then this is the book for you, because you will find it. I gave this book a 1-star rating. I think it's the only book I've ever given a 1-star rating to, but it just was that much of a disappointing reading experience. This is like a dystopian post-apocalyptic story about two characters who live on either side of the coast, and they're trying to meet each other. What really annoyed me was the shifting in POVs, and there being no indication when the POVs would change. Like, one paragraph would be one POV, then we get to the next paragraph and it's different POV, and you'll never find out when that shift happens. So that was very annoying, and overall it was just not an interesting book. We have After You and Still Me, both by Georgia Moyes, and these are the sequels to Me Before You. I read Me Before You when I was in college, and I did enjoy it. I remember liking that book quite a lot and being very emotional about it too. However, when I got to these two books, they were not interesting at all. The main character, Louise's chemistry and relationships that she has in these two books were not believable, and honestly, it felt like there was no chemistry at all, and you just couldn't get behind it. I'm keeping Me Before You though, because I really enjoyed that, but I'm definitely giving these away. Then I have The Night Swim by Megan Golden. There's nothing particularly wrong with this book. I thought it handled the topics of essay and essay culture very well. However, this book made me very uncomfortable, and it was very triggering, and I just don't want it on my shelf anymore. I think there might be somebody who will like this book, and not that I hated this book, I just feel very neutral towards it. I'd rather just give it away. Then I have The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. Now, this definitely was a letdown. I thought it'd be about a crazy murderous family, but that did not happen, and that was very sad. Overall, it was boring, and the main character did not like her. She was very pretentious. Happy to get rid of this ASAP. Good Morning Midnight, and this is by Lily Brooks Dalton. I remember not really liking it. It's short. It's like 240 pages or something like that. And there was a lot of like technical science talk. The prose felt very dense, and it was very heavy on the prose, scarce dialogue, and I prefer my books with more dialogue. It's usually a more fast-paced read, so this felt slow even for a short book. Then I have the Nevermore trilogy, and I don't really know why I picked up this series because it was not that interesting. Maybe the first 2 books were okay, but this is a very like early 2010s YA book, and it just was not my cup of tea. Maybe somebody else will like this. Then I have somehow 2 copies of A Study in Charlotte and The Last of August, and this is by Brittany Cavallero. These books are basically about the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and the premise was very interesting, but I did not like this main character. Like, she was so rude and mean, very egotistic, and she was treating the male character very poorly, so I did not like her characterization. I'm sure there's somebody who would enjoy these. And then I have Raw Blue by Kirsty Eager. I just had a hard time getting through this book because of the topics and her trauma and what she had to go through. It was very triggering for me, so for that reason I had to let it go. Plus, there were a lot of moments in this book where it just felt very slow and sluggish, and for that reason, this has to go too. Then I have Gone by Michael Grant. This is book 1 in a series. I remember seeing other books in this series in like Target and other stores years ago, but this was a very interesting book when I read it. I remember it being about teenagers in this town who, after they turn a certain age, they disappear. I think there's this whole conspiracy around it. I don't remember caring to continue on, and I forgot about this book and I forgot about the series, so I never cared to look into it to see if there's other books for me to read in the series, and for that reason I think it's just gotta go. Then I have Warlock Holmes by G.S. Denning. This is actually book 2 in this series, and I had no idea, but it's okay because I have no interest in reading any other books in the series or even trying book 1. I read probably just a couple of pages in the beginning and could not continue. I was so bored out of my mind, and I did not care about anything that happened in this book. Maybe it gets interesting, but I really tried, guys, over and over again to read it, but I just could not get through it. We have My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. I read this again when I was in college and I was younger. I remember it being a very interesting and heartfelt book. What I did not like was, so both characters in this book have depression, and the main male character, even though he has depression, he's always smiling. He has this like happy facade going on, and so the main female character could not believe that somebody like him would have depression, and almost downplayed his depression because she questioned how can he be depressed if he's smiling. And I just think that's wrong, because there are a lot of people who smile who are very depressed internally. We cannot judge people's mental health based off of how they are on the outside, because sometimes people have to put on these facades, right, for the world, but internally they're not happy. So I didn't like how our main female character just judged our main male character's depression. I have The Island by Victoria Hislop. I remember picking up this book in 8th grade for a writing assignment, and I just picked up a random book from a store. It happened to be this one, and I think it has to do with leprosy and the island where everybody who had leprosy, they were sent off to, and how that affected this family for generations. I think that's what it's about, if I can remember. I don't have any reason to keep this around, and so I'm just gonna give it away. Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews. This was good when I read it. I feel like it served its purpose for me at the time, and it was very popular back then too, and yeah, it was good. I remember laughing a lot. It had a lot of humorous moments, but like I said, I feel like it served its purpose, and now it's time to let it go. Then we have The Nest by Cynthia Dupree Sweeney. This book was terrible. I remember disliking every second of it, and I finished it though. I did, but it was not a great book. Last but not least, I have this nonfiction, Smithsonian, An Intimate Guide to the Cosmos by Dana Barry. This wasn't terrible. It was okay. I just feel like it was a little bit dense, and a little too technical in its writing, so I was lost many times when I tried reading this. It was also a very slow reading experience. It took me a long time to get through this book, which it shouldn't, because the majority of it, again, is just pictures, just a bunch of pictures everywhere. I'm okay not having this on my shelf. Alrighty guys, so that's all I have for this video. If you're interested in any of these books, the link to my Pango account is gonna be below. And if you've read any of these books and liked it or disliked it, please let me know. And I'll see you next time. Bye!